right. Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to be here with you today. Let's see. It is Friday, September 15th. I don't know about you, but here in the Pacific Northwest, we are experiencing our second summer, so like we got really cool. We started having that autumnal weather, and then all of a sudden it's back up in the 80s again. So this is how it rolls. This is part of the season, and you just kind of go with it. So yay, second summer. But what that means is that the cozy weather is right around the corner, and I'm really looking forward to that. How about you? So let's see. My name is Miri Pizann. I am a gluten-free coach. I help people who are struggling with learning how to read labels, learning how to figure out what's safe to eat and what is not safe. And by the way, helping people figure out how they can eat all the same foods that they used to eat, but this time do it safely so that you don't get sick. We are currently hanging out here in the League of Gluten-Free Adventurers. So if you have a question or a comment, you want to say hi, how's it going? Feel free to drop it down in the comment section. I would love to hear from you, and we can, it's not the same as going face to face, obviously, because there's a delay, but drop me a comment, let me know how you're doing, and I will chat with you. Let's see. So why am I here? Why am I talking to you? Why should you listen to me? Well, I have been gluten-free for a decade at this point. And I remember how hard it was when I was first learning it. And, this is back in the olden days when I had to walk to school uphill both ways in the snow. But, but, like, I still remember how hard it was. And even though there are gluten-free options on the grocery shelves right now, it's still really challenging, and it can feel really isolating because even though there's all these options, unless you're gluten-free, a lot of people don't make use of it. So you can still feel very isolated and alone when you're trying to socialize or just spend time with your family because you can't eat the same foods as them. So that is something else that I help people with, is how to restructure your world so that you don't feel alone anymore, or left out or ostracized or second-class citizen, because you don't have to feel any of those things. I understand why you do. I'm just saying, like, it's not the only way to be gluten-free. You can eat safely and have a social life too. So today, I wanted to talk to you about communicating your needs when it comes to being gluten-free, right? And the first part of that is that, oh my gosh, I'm looking at my shirt and I realize I've got my little Chihuahua glitter all over me still. Oh, well, that just shows that I have a doggy that loves me. But, gosh. Okay. So communicating your needs, specifically your gluten-free needs, right? How do you make sure that you're going to be able to eat safely without coming off as like one of those annoying people? Like they always have that joke, how do you know if somebody's gluten-free? Don't worry, they'll tell you. And it's like, yeah, because we have to, because that's how we're going to be safe. But there are different ways to communicate your needs without coming off as like annoying or one of those people. You can still eat safely and spend time with people, right? So the first thing, and this is so, so important, is that you need to know what your own limits are and what your risk tolerance is, okay? So there are some people who cannot tolerate any gluten at all. If you're celiac, you probably fall into this position, even if you're asymptomatic. And oh my gosh, that is so hard. Like, I am fully aware that if you're not experiencing symptoms from eating gluten-free, from eating gluten, if you don't experience symptoms from eating gluten, it is so hard to want to avoid it, because like it's hard, right? So you need to know what your tolerance level is and what your risk level is. right? So your tolerance level is, if I have even a teensy tiny little crumb, I'm going to get sick. Or, I mean, like, there are people like my dad, he avoided gluten because of his arthritis. But he could eat like a piece of bread every day and it wouldn't bother him. If he had 2 pieces of bread every day, then he would start, like, he would get all swollen and he wouldn't be able to move very well. So for him, it wasn't a matter of celiac. There wasn't anything internal, like, there wasn't any risk of cancer from eating gluten, anything like that. So he didn't care if there was cross contamination. It didn't, or cross contact. It didn't bother him. It didn't make him ill. But for other people, like for me, like, even, I'm sitting there right about where the USDA says it is. So I need less than 20 parts per million, but I know that there are people out there who need 10 parts per million or 5 parts per million, so you need to figure out, like, how severe your symptoms are, like, how severe is your reaction? How much gluten can you tolerate before you get sick? Okay, so once you know your limits, then you can communicate them to other people. So one of the things that I've learned is that there is the language that doctors speak, and then there's the language that everybody else speaks, right? And because we are dealing with these conditions, whatever your condition is, whatever my condition is, because we're dealing with these conditions, we have to be able to communicate with both. Okay. So when you're talking with your doctor, unless you actually do have a gluten allergy or celiac or whatever, you're going to use only the terminology that makes sense to your doctor. Right. So for me personally, I do not have celiac, but I still react to gluten. Nobody knows why. They haven't figured this out yet. So I am called non-celiac gluten sensitivity. That's my issue. But there's like all these other ones. But when I'm talking with my doctor, I don't talk about having an allergy, because as far as she's concerned, I don't have an allergy, right? But when I'm talking with a server or my friends or my family or my boss, they don't care. They just need to know how careful they need to be in the kitchen. Like, that's what they're thinking about, right? So I'm not going to talk about non-celiac gluten sensitivity, because they're going to hear non-celiac and think, oh, you're not actually sick then. And it's like, yeah, follow me around for the next 3 weeks and see how not sick I am, right? you know? So, so what I do is I use the language that they understand. If a restaurant talks about that they are celiac safe or non-celiac safe, because like they will offer gluten-free food, but it's not necessarily celiac safe, then I know that they have an understanding of what celiac means. And so I can say that I need celiac level of safeguards, right? And they will be like, okay, this is something that's severe. We don't want her to get sick. We're going to be very careful. But like my dad, he could go in and just say, I need something gluten-free. And, it doesn't, and they will be like, do you have celiac? And he can say no. But if they ask me, do you have celiac? I will say yes, not because I actually have celiac and not because I'm lying, but because I still need that level of safeguarding. Now, that's for people who actually have the high level, but what about people who don't, like my dad? I am begging you, if you are at that level, please, please be clear that you don't need the safeguards. For one thing, it's extra work in the kitchen because they will scrub down everything. They will clear the space. They will change their gloves. They go through, it takes a lot of places 10 minutes to get an area safe, to get it celiac safe. So if you don't need that, don't make them do that, you know? And the other thing that I have seen, which is why this is so important, is that somebody who does not need those extra levels of precaution will ask for it, for their meal. And then for dessert, they'll eat a piece of cake. And the server's just like, what the heck? you know? And so they start thinking that anybody who asks for gluten-free food is lying. So we don't, and like, for example, like my dad, he probably could have had the cake and he would have been fine, but he shouldn't, and like, so if you are in a position where you do not have severe gluten allergy, you don't have to worry about cross contact, please say so. This is, like you can say it's either a preference or you can say it's not celiac or something like that, just so that the servers know they don't have to work over hard to take care of you. So that's why I'm saying that communication is so important. It's so that the people who need extra help get it, and the people who don't need extra help aren't making everybody else look bad or anything else, right? We want everybody to get the help that they actually need. So you don't, but like I said, you don't have to explain what your thing is. You don't have to say, oh, I've got, this condition or that condition. You just use the language that they know so that they understand what level of safety they need to have. And the last thing that I'm going to say is that, I actually take it even a step further. Like when I'm ordering a burger, I will start with saying I have a gluten allergy and a dairy allergy. So I'd like to get the burger with a gluten-free bun, no cheese because of the dairy allergy, and no tomatoes because I don't like them. And that way the server knows, like, okay, it's okay if we accidentally leave the tomatoes on there. It's no big deal. I don't like them. I can just pick them off, but it's got to be the gluten-free bun. So like I will actually say like no tomatoes because I don't like them, and that way there's just that level of clarity so that they understand these are the important ones and these are the ones that like are preferences. So that's my big push for today on communicating your needs. I don't see any questions down in the comments right now. But I do see that we have a couple of viewers. So please do say hi. I'd love to see who's here. And if you have any questions, do drop them in. So this is the Q&A part. I did get one write-in question, so I'm going to answer that right now. And then if anybody else drops a question in the comments, I will be happy to answer that also. So the question I got was from Nicole, and she says, how do I eat at a friend's house when I'm gluten-free and my friends are not gluten-free? Oh, Nicole, I am right there with you. I so feel that. I completely understand. So these are your friends. These are people who you care about and who care about you. So have a conversation with them, tell them I've got this health issue and I have these needs. And you can find out, like, I can't tell you how many times I was like, oh, I'm never going to be able to eat at anybody else's house again. And my friend was like, well, if you tell me what you need, I'm willing to learn. And I've actually had a couple of friends who have said things like, oh, my mom has celiac. I know all about this. Or I had a roommate in college. I had to do this all the time. I completely know what to do. And I'm just like, really? I'm not alone. So give your friends a chance to surprise you. You don't know what they know. Like it's not something that we have big, easy conversations about. So if you're going to a friend's house or you're going to hang out, oh, hey, Rachel, thanks for sharing information. Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so glad that it helps you. So give your friends a chance to help and to be knowledgeable, or a chance for them to learn, like you're still learning, what it's like, so you can teach them. And if you're teaching them, be prepared for them to mess up just the same way that you might have messed up when you were first starting. But, offer to have that. Offer to get that dialogue going. It can actually help you build bonds. You can also, you can offer to bring your own. If they don't feel confident that they can feed you safely, bring your own food. Like it is absolutely important when everyone is breaking bread. I feel like this is like one of the things that a lot of the community doesn't understand, right? Like I see a lot of eat beforehand, and that bothers me. You know, I used to say this, like, but I've never, like, there are times when I have had to eat beforehand, but I don't like it. It's not fun. It doesn't help me, like, build bonds, which is like when you're eating together, that's part of the importance of it. So this is like if it's not a bonding exercise, or if there are other issues going on, you can eat beforehand, you know. But like if these are your friends, if they care about you and if you care about them and they do not feel like they can safely feed you, bring your own food. You can pick up a baked potato from Wendy's, or something, you know, like if you need to grab something on the go, you can have your bars or your snacks or whatever it is. Um, but bring your own food if they cannot safely feed you. And yeah, like the eating beforehand, I feel like that is a last resort issue. That's like, you know, and I do understand that there are reasons that you might need to do that, but I don't recommend that as a first thing unless like eating with people doesn't build bonds for you. If you feel like it doesn't matter to you, then more power to you. But I know that like for a lot of folks, breaking bread together is actually it's part of the human experience. It brings people together, you know. So it's I'm not a big fan of eat beforehand. I've had to do it. I don't like it, but I understand that sometimes you need to. But yeah, bring food. And, you know, if there's a potluck, bring something that you're going to be happy to eat. You know, go ahead and surprise people. Like that is one of my favorite things. Like I have a women's group that I meet with, and we all bring food to share. And I love bringing food to them and showing them how delicious gluten-free food can be, how you can't even tell that there's any difference, you know. And like a lot of times I don't bring leftovers home. Like they gobble up everything, and there's not a whole lot of us in, in the group. So it's like, you know, people are going back for seconds. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, bring your own food, have the conversation, and be willing to let people surprise you. Okay. So I think that's everything that I've got for today. Rachel, if you I don't see any questions. So if you do have a question and you want to talk to me about something, feel free to DM me. And I hope that you all have a fabulous rest of your Friday, that your weekend is absolutely glorious. Keep reading your labels. Remember to eat safely. It is possible to eat safe and delicious at the same time. And I will see you next week. Have a fabulous weekend, everybody. Okay. Bye-bye.